When you make that choice to lead from the heart, it quite often requires you to emerge above the canopy. So if you think of a forest, and there's some trees there's the shrubs and there's some trees, and then above that are the tallest trees. Often these are the trees that the stronger birds may nest in. They can be full of life. However, they're also exposed to lightning, they're exposed to winds, they're exposed to the elements. And so it requires a deeper strength. So their roots go into the ground more deeply. They have this greater support around them. They've been through struggles and trials and tribulations to get to the point where they emerge above the canopy. I'm going to help you do that for yourself today. Now, one of the things about emerging above the canopy, aka leading others, is that you have to have a foundation that is very strong in yourself. So some people would call this sovereignty, right? You know yourself very well and you're very strong in yourself. Because if you don't have this strong sense of self and understanding of the self, what happens is you step into leadership, you might get criticism. And so for you, leadership might be making videos and sharing videos, or it might be running a business, or it might be doing your creative pursuits such as playing music or being seen in a way that's not comfortable. Yeah, so that's leading from your heart. Your heart is calling you forward, but then there's this sense of, I want to do this work and for this work to be seen. Often what happens is you are the channel, you are the vessel in the way that this work can be seen. So unless you have this strong sense of self and understanding of yourself, you can be in, you can be out. You can be highly productive and then some criticism might come and you step out, or you can be leading in a way that feels fantastic for you. Then you get some criticism, you step out. So what we're going to do today is look at why that occurs. There's many, many reasons and many, many different scenarios that can occur in, but we're going to look at one facet of why that occurs. Now, the foundations for yourself are so important for you to step into what it is that you feel called to. So you have a vision, you want to do the vision, but then guess what? You're going to have to learn about yourself in the process. You're going to have to understand yourself, but then as you start to lead, you have to understand yourself and how you relate to others too. Yeah. Human interactions can be so complex, and we're based on a tribal system. Right? Humans survive because of community. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see the slide deck. If you're listening to it in other places, you can look in the show notes and you can go and see the slide deck. There'll be a link there for you. So in this particular slide, what I've done is I've created a slide deck using wallabies, right? So other people in the world might recognize these as kangaroos. Wallabies are a marsupial very closely related to kangaroos. So what happens is your nervous system is prioritized to belonging because survival depended upon being in a community. If you tried to kill a woolly mammoth on your own, wouldn't have gone so well. Whereas in a community of 100 or 150 people with spears and rocks and nets and things like that, chances are it would have gone better. Might not have worked out ideally, by the way. But the chances of survival were higher in community. So our brains have this primal wiring to be liked by community. If we're not liked by community, we could quite possibly die alone in the desert or the jungle, be mauled by a tiger. So it's a very strong primal part of your brain. Knowing this is really important, and understanding how it works for you is really important, so that you can lead, you can emerge above perhaps others. And it's not a hierarchical, I'm better than anybody else. It's just that you feel called to lead. You have skills and talents and knowledge and a way of viewing the world, or things that you want to bring into being in the world, or changes you want to make. And it calls you forward. But this primal part, this protection, can be pulling you back. So what we want to do is know about this tension, right? Between the part of you that calls you forward and the part that is pulling you back into what you perceive to be the expectations of the tribe. Where did you get these expectations from? From your upbringing, from your peers, from your experiences. So these expectations of how I should and shouldn't behave are based on the past. They're hardwired. They can even be in your DNA and passed in through DNA. And so you stepping into this new way of being where you are leading requires you to understand yourself. It requires you to have a strong foundation in yourself, but also learn to let go of being liked. Because who do you need to be liked by? It's a good question, right? I'm going to say that again. Who do you need to be liked for? For you to do your work, who do you need to be liked by? Sometimes it's not the people you expect. Quite often, the one person you need to be liked by is yourself. The one person whose criticism you need to be able to handle is your own criticism. Because people are going to have different opinions. Are you going to take that personally and be able to move forward? Are you going to not take it personally and still be able to move forward? You can be sensitive. Yeah. And I've mentioned many times in other episodes that being sensitive is a superpower. Many fantastic leaders are sensitive. As a traditional chief or chiefess in the jungle, you had to be sensitive to the environment and the wind and the animals and what was happening in the village. But taking it personally is separate to being sensitive. So if someone doesn't like what you're doing, like how you are you going to go back and conform with the tribe, or are you able to stand in your own strength and inner power? This is one of the beauties of criticism. If you handle it well, it will always bring you back to your inner power. So, for example, if someone criticizes you, and it could be fair criticism, could be unfair. Yeah, both of those are perceptions of the mind. If someone criticizes you, you're going to go through a process. It could be the process is devastation. What have I done? Oh, yes, I was wrong. And then you come back to your inner power. At some point, hopefully, you will pick yourself up again with a new understanding. Actually, I was insensitive. I was out of line. I did need to address this certain piece. And then you come back to your inner power. An alternative is you receive the criticism and it can hurt. It can make you retract. But then you go through a process and you go, actually, I realized that I was okay. I was okay in this process. And so my inner power is amplified because I go, oh, I can see I copped that criticism, but it wasn't fair. And actually, I'm still here. I'm doing things my way. So this is always the process. Yeah. You can be devastated. You can be not devastated, but that's still going to connect you back to your inner power. Yeah. And your inner power is this sense of who you truly are that is untouchable. It's the strength. So if you think back to the forest and those big trees, they have roots in the ground, a strong trunk, strong branches. They can lose leaves. They can lose small branches. They can lose medium or even big branches, but they still exist in their strength. And so this is what you want to do with your leadership in your creative work or your business. So, okay, stepping into my leadership, learning to handle criticism. So here's a question for you. What happens to your sense of self when your actions are shaped by what others think? Here's the question again. What happens to your sense of self when your actions are shaped by what others think? Where's your inner power when you're shaping your actions on what others think? Where's your sense of inner power when you shape your actions on what you think and believe, what is true for you? Because there's going to be things that you stand for, there's going to be things that you don't stand for. Most people are fearful that the things they don't stand for are going to alienate people. But what it actually does is when you stand for something, it brings people in, right? They sense your inner power, they sense your leadership. So extending on that question of what happens to your sense of self when your actions are shaped by what others think, what's one small action that you can take that feels true for you? There's probably something in your field, if you're listening to this episode, where you have stepped out of alignment, what's true for you, because you're worried about what others think. So what's one small action that you can do to bring yourself back into alignment for what's true for you? Could be creating something. It could just simply be exercising. It could be saying no to somebody or something or some behavior or pattern that you have. What's one small action that you can do? If you're able to write it down, maybe make a note on your phone. Okay, what's one small action? Do you know what you do tomorrow? You repeat the action. It becomes a habit. Then you don't have to think about it anymore. Yeah. So what this does is you're bringing yourself back to your truth time and time and time again. That process of coming back to your truth and living your truth, it's crucial, because there you will experience the power of yourself, which is one of the greatest gifts of being alive, is experiencing the gift of your true self in your actions and your daily life. If you want to get better at that, there's resources in the show notes, in the links. One of them is a PDF called 11 Habits for Connecting to Your Inner Guidance. And it's more like simple things that if you do those, you will be much, much more connected to your own sense of inner power. If you've got any questions or comments, let me know. If you DM me, if you're watching on YouTube, use the comments section. I check my socials. I'm on there often, and I'm always creating new content to help you move forward and ripple your work out into the world. Thank you for listening to this episode. My name's Ash. It's an honor to spend time with you. Feel free to subscribe and hope to see you again sometime.